I am writing this because whatever is down there has learned my name. If you're hearing this, if my voice has survived whatever comes next, then understand this first. I didn't go looking for evil. I didn't open a forbidden book or summon something with candles and blood. I did everything right. I followed the rules. I stayed where I was supposed to stay. And it still found me. It starts with a sound. That's always how it starts. A sound you don't notice at first because it doesn't feel important enough to remember later. Something small, ordinary. Something you explain away because the alternative is too uncomfortable to consider. For me, it was breathing. Not my own. I noticed it on the third night, long after the power had gone out and the radio had fallen silent. I was sitting at the kitchen table, wrapped in a coat that still smelled like dust and mothballs, listening to the old cabin settle around me. The wind moved through the trees outside with a low, patient hiss. The oil lamp flickered, shadows leaned into the corners. Then there it was, in, out, slow, measured, too steady to be the wind, too close to be an animal. I held my breath without realizing it, waiting for the sound to stop. It didn't. That was when I understood the first rule of the place, though no one had ever told me outright. Once you hear it, it already knows you're listening. I should tell you where this happened, or maybe I shouldn't. Names have power, and I've already given it enough. But you'll find it if you're determined. People always do. The cabin belonged to my Uncle James, a man I barely knew and understood even less. He died alone in the winter, 3 months before anyone noticed. Heart failure, the coroner said. Peaceful. Natural. No one mentioned the way his fingernails were torn down to the quick. No one mentioned the dirt packed into his mouth. I inherited the property by default. No spouse, no children. Just me, the nephew who sent Christmas cards and nothing else. I thought about selling it without ever visiting, but curiosity is a disease, and it runs in my family. The cabin sat deep in the Appalachian foothills, miles from the nearest paved road. No cell service, no neighbors. The kind of isolation people romanticize until they're forced to sit alone with themselves. The first day was fine, better than fine, peaceful. The air smelled like pine and wet earth. The trees pressed close, but not threateningly so. The cabin itself was old but solid, its logs darkened by time, its windows small and thick with grime. It felt like a place that had endured. I told myself I could stay a week, clean it out, decide what to do next. I didn't know the second rule yet. The place decides how long you stay. That night, I dreamed of tunnels. Not caves exactly, but something narrower, carved with intent rather than erosion. The walls pulsed faintly, as if they were breathing. I could hear something moving just out of sight, keeping pace with me, no matter how fast I ran. When I woke, my sheets were damp with sweat, and my throat burned like I'd been screaming. I laughed it off. New place, old house noises, stress. That's the lie you cling to until it rots in your hands. The breathing started the next evening. I told myself it was the cabin. Old wood expands and contracts. Wind finds strange paths. I even spoke aloud, narrating my thoughts like that would anchor them in reality. Just the house, I said. My voice sounded thin. The breathing answered me. Closer now. From beneath the floor. I froze, every muscle locked, listening as the sound slid slowly across the room, passing under the table, stopping directly beneath my feet. Then it inhaled. The floorboards flexed just slightly, like something pressing up against them from below, but desperation glued them back together. I checked the crawl space entrance behind the cabin, half expecting to find a bear or a vagrant, or anything with fur or skin or a face I could recognize. The hatch was sealed shut with nails. From the inside, I stood there longer than I should have, staring at rusted metal and warped wood, feeling watched by the trees. When I finally turned away, I noticed something I hadn't seen before. Footprints. They weren't human, too deep, as if whatever made them weighed far more than it should. They led away from the hatch, toward the woods, and then, halfway to the tree line, they stopped. No fading, no disturbance, just an abrupt end, as if the thing that made them had simply sunk into the earth. I tried the radio again. Static. The same low hiss, almost rhythmic, almost breathing. That afternoon, I found my uncle's journals. They were hidden behind a loose panel in the bedroom wall, wrapped in oilcloth and tied with twine. There were years' worth of them, the handwriting growing more erratic over time, the margins crowded with notes and symbols I didn't recognize. The early entries were mundane: weather, repairs, complaints about isolation. Then, gradually, the tone shifted. He wrote about sounds at night, about dreams that felt like memories, about something beneath the land that predated the forest, the hills, the concept of names. It is not trapped, one entry read. It is anchored. Another, it does not hunt, it waits. By the time I reached the last journal, my hands were shaking. It learns, my uncle had written. The ink pressed so hard it tore the page. It practices us. I didn't want to read anymore. That was my mistake. The power came back on at dusk, without explanation. The lights flickered weakly, buzzing like insects. Relief washed over me, followed by something colder. The breathing had stopped. The silence felt deliberate. I packed my car in a panic, journals thrown haphazardly into a box. I didn't bother cleaning. I didn't bother locking the door. The engine wouldn't turn over. I tried again, and again. Nothing. That was when I heard my name. Not spoken. Not exactly. It came from the ground, vibrating up through my bones, shaping itself inside my skull with a familiarity that made my stomach twist. It sounded like my mother's voice. I ran back inside the cabin and barricaded the door, heart hammering, every childhood fear clawing its way to the surface. The lights dimmed, then went out completely. In the darkness, something knocked from below. Once. Twice. The floorboards bowed. A crack split the wood, running like a vein. I don't know how long I sat there, clutching a fireplace poker like it could save me, listening to the thing beneath the cabin shift and stretch. I could feel it thinking, not in words, but in impressions. Curiosity, patience, hunger. When it finally spoke, it didn't use my mother's voice again. It used mine. Perfectly. Come down. It said, I'm lonely. The floor gave way. I fell. The tunnels from my dreams were real. They swallowed me whole. Down there, time unraveled. The walls were not stone, but something older, layered with impressions of lives pressed into them like fossils. Faces emerged as I passed, eyes opening briefly, mouths frozen in silent screams. I understood then what my uncle meant. It didn't kill. It kept. The thing at the center of it all was vast and wrong. A presence rather than a shape, coiled through the earth like a root system that spanned miles. It wore fragments of people the way a hermit crab wears shells, trying them on, practicing, learning. I felt it reach into me, not violently, but with a terrible gentleness, peeling back memories, testing which ones fit. My childhood, my regrets, my voice. When it spoke again, it was no longer imperfect. It was me. I don't know how I escaped. Maybe it let me go. Maybe it doesn't matter. I woke up on the forest floor at dawn, the cabin gone, the ground smooth and unbroken. The car started without trouble. I didn't stop driving until the mountains were far behind me. But sometimes, late at night, when everything is quiet, I hear breathing beneath my feet. And somewhere, deep under the earth, something practices being human. If this story unsettled you, if it made you listen a little closer to the silence around you, then you already understand why it needs to be shared. Like the video, subscribe to Nightmare Crypt, and pass this warning along if you dare. There are more stories waiting for you here, and some of them are still listening.